Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging right into some of the most significant posts buzzing on the X platform. It's June 25th, 2025, and we've got a compilation of stuff that really caught our eye. Our mission, like always, is to kind of sift through the noise, pull out the key nuggets of insight for you. It's your shortcut to knowing what's really driving the conversation. We've got tech, AI, definitely global affairs, market trends, a real mix today. Ready to jump in. Okay, let's kick things off with the really fast-paced world of AI. Honestly, there's been a flurry of news just today. It shows these incredible advancements, but also, the fierce competition behind it all. And we're starting with a bit of drama, actually. At Rowan Chung posted earlier, AI New WS. Sam Altman just made some interesting revelations about the IO lawsuit, calling it silly, disappointing, and wrong. Plus a load of other updates. So what's the real story? Why such strong words from Altman?
Yeah, it's pretty strong language. And what's really insightful here is the backstory you don't immediately see. This company's suing OpenAI, IYO. It's actually a Google X spinout. They make these AI-powered earbuds. And get this, the founder had apparently pitched an acquisition to OpenAI before all this. And OpenAI said no, reject it.
Oh, wow. So it's not just out of the blue.
Not at all. And it kind of fits a pattern. Bloomberg law data, it shows tech trademark disputes are up like 30% since 2023. So this lawsuit, it's really a symptom, a signal of just how intense the competition's getting. These legal fights are really challenging that smooth, seamless innovation story we often hear.
That context definitely adds another layer. Okay, so moving from legal battles to some powerful new tools. Google's making moves at Google Wait Devs announced. Introducing Gemini CLI, a light and powerful open-source AI agent that brings Gemini directly into your terminal, basically letting you write code, debug, automate stuff using Gemini 2.5 Pro with high usage limits, and get this, at no cost. And at Phil Schmidt added some details, unique features like hierarchical memory context, self-correcting file edits, secure sandbox tool execution. Sounds like a really strategic play by Google, doesn't it, to maybe shake up the developer world?
Oh, absolutely. It's clearly a strategic move. They want to dominate the AI landscape,
Yeah.
right? So they dropped this powerful, open source, and importantly, free alternative. It uses Gemini 2.5 Pro, which has that massive 1 million token context window.
Which is huge.
It's enormous. It's like it can read and remember an entire novel in one go.
Yeah.
So yeah, this could seriously shift the market, especially against those paid AI solutions. But there's always a but, right? Early users are already finding some kinks. Like one developer said it reviewed over 5,000 files, even with .gtenor settings.
Ooh, that's not ideal.
Exactly. It highlights this need for, even better context awareness, better precision. It's this tricky balance, between all that power and having fine-grained control.
A really crucial point there. Okay, so beyond just code, Google DeepMind is also pushing boundaries elsewhere. Check this out from @GoogleDeepMind. Introducing AlphaGenome, an AI model to help scientists better understand our DNA. Researchers can now quickly predict what impact genetic changes could have. This feels like a potentially massive step for biology, right?
It really is. A significant leap. You have to remember DeepMind's track record here, like with AlphaFold for protein structures and AlphaMissense. AlphaGenome builds on that. What's key is it makes the super complex genomics research more accessible. Scientists can rapidly test ideas about genetic changes. It's part of this bigger accelerating trend you see everywhere now, using cutting-edge AI to tackle really fundamental, complex biological questions.
Okay, so if you pull back and look at all this AI stuff.
Well, what's striking is this kind of dual nature, isn't it? On one side, you've got these incredibly powerful tools like Gemini CLI, AlphaGenome, democratizing complex stuff, driving science forward like crazy. But on the other side, that same rapid innovation, it's directly fueling more legal fights, more intense competition.
Yeah.
It feels like AI's biggest leaps now come with, built-in friction. Companies aren't just coding, they're figuring out how to navigate this really messy legal and competitive space.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, shifting gears a bit now. Beyond the pure tech, we're seeing some really significant movements with capital, talent, and some fascinating policy debates playing out. Balaji posted this really punchy statement. Capital is moving to Dubai, Singapore, and Australia. Talent will follow. That's a big claim about a global reshuffling. What's driving this?
Well, definitely resonates with some broader trends we're seeing. That Henley Private Wealth Migration Report for 2024, it predicted a record number of millionaires, 15,200 leaving China, mostly due to economic uncertainty there.
Right.
But it's not just global. You see similar things happening domestically. Like in New York, The Guardian reported yesterday on Zohran Mamdani's upset win over Andrew Cuomo in the mayoral primary. And the thinking is that kind of political shift could actually speed up wealth and talent moving out, maybe to places like Miami.
Interesting connection.
Yeah, and the Financial Times has data showing New York's population actually shrank between 2011 and 2021. Plus, the cost of living is just soaring. You need, over $90 a year now just to be comfortable? So behind these headlines about wealth moving, it feels like there's this global rethink happening. What really makes a city or a country attractive for people and for business?
And speaking of New York politics, this post from Adanalysis caught my eye. He observed, Fox News just accidentally made Zohran Mamdani sound like the most pro-family candidate in America. Free childcare, baby baskets, $30 wages. Tell me where to sign. It kind of highlights how policies get framed, right? But economically speaking, how feasible is something like a $30 minimum wage in NYC? What are the potential ripple effects?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the $30 question here. NYC's current minimum is $15 an hour, so doubling it. That's a huge jump in labor costs, obviously. Now, proponents might point to studies like Cardin Kruger back in '94, suggesting maybe minimal job loss sometimes. But critics, they are definitely worried about a wealth exodus.
Like we saw in California.
Exactly. California lost, I think it was around 343,000 high-income residents between 2017 and 2022 after tax hikes and policy changes. So that's a real concern. On the childcare front, universal childcare has worked really well in places like Sweden. They invested about 1% of GDP, cut child poverty by 20%. But the U.S. context is different. We have much higher income inequality, which makes funding these big universal programs trickier without significant tax changes or, those unintended economic shifts we talked about.
Yeah, it's complex.
Very complex. And if you connect these dots, you see this fascinating interplay, right? Global forces pushing capital around and these domestic policies trying to tackle inequality. It's not just about where money flows. It's this kind of strategic competition now for both capital and talent. It's forcing places to really think hard about what makes them viable, both economically and socially.
Okay, let's zoom out even further now to the big picture, global power, finance. And maybe start with something a little lighter. Ed Garbage Human 24 posted a meme yesterday kind of satirizing the whole Iran-Israel conflict situation. What's the serious backdrop to that kind of humor?
Yeah, memes can be surprisingly layered. While it's satire, it definitely points to a very real, very serious situation. We've seen intensified direct confrontations between Iran and Israel in 2025. This is after years of mostly proxy wars. And the U.S. got involved after a ceasefire broke down. So the humor, suggesting Iran's ceasefire request got shot down by the U.S. and Israel, it taps into critiques about Iran, often using disinformation or, let's say, diplomatic overtures that aren't entirely sincere. There was actually a study, Journal of Conflict Resolution in 2023. It found something like 78% of Middle East conflicts involved exaggerated diplomatic moves. So the meme kind of nails that cynical view of diplomacy in the region.
Wow, okay. Layers indeed. All right, sticking with geopolitics, let's look at NATO. @Vigilant Fox posted, "The era of American weakness is over. Trump just made them pay up. He demanded every member increase their spend to 5% of GDP on defense." Strong words. What actually happened? What are the results of this push?
Right. This refers directly to the NATO summit in The Hague, which just happened yesterday, June 25th. President Trump apparently secured an agreement there to raise the defense spending target to 5% of GDP. That's double the old 2% target.
Double. That's significant.
It is. And for context, the U.S. already spends a lot. In 2024, it was $935 billion, about 3.2% of U.S. GDP. That's nearly twice what all the other NATO members spent combined. Now, not everyone agreed. Spain reportedly refused. They only spent about 1.2% of their GDP on defense last year. So Trump's response, according to the Post, was proposing trade penalties against Spain, arguing their economy is strong enough to afford it.
Using economic leverage again.
Exactly. It echoes his past approach, like with India and Pakistan, using economic pressure as a primary tool in foreign policy, rather than relying solely on traditional diplomacy or military aid. It suggests a potential ongoing shift in how these international alliances might function, or maybe malfunction, depending on your view.
Okay, from defense spending to digital assets. We've got some breaking financial news here. @Unusual Whales posted, breaking! U.S. Director of Federal Housing polled. Today, I ordered the great Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to prepare their businesses to count cryptocurrency as an asset for a mortgage. And at Watcher Guru echoed it. This sounds huge for crypto adoption.
It is potentially massive, yeah. A really major shift. Think about it. In 2023-2024, only about 1% of homebuyers used any crypto proceeds for their down payments. So this directive aligns perfectly with President Trump's stated goal for 2025. Make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. It reverses previous rules where you had to sell your crypto for dollars first.
But crypto is so volatile. What are the risks here? For homeowners, for the housing market?
That's the big flashing warning sign, isn't it? The volatility is undeniable. Chainalysis reported North Korean hackers stole, $1.34 billion in crypto just in 2024? That gives you a sense of the security risks, too. And you have to remember Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's history. They needed massive government bailouts during the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis.
Right. Can't forget that.
Exactly.
Right.
So letting them count highly volatile assets like crypto for mortgages, it requires an extremely cautious approach. You absolutely want to avoid creating new vulnerabilities or amplifying risk in the housing market. It's a tightrope walk.
It feels like a major experiment.
It really does. And it brings up this fundamental question, right? How are these traditional structures, power structures, financial systems, how are they being challenged and maybe reformed by all these new dynamics, from, bold diplomatic shifts to integrating a totally novel and frankly risky assets like crypto? It's all playing out right now.
Okay, let's pull back for the last segment here. Look at some of the quirkier, maybe unexpected, but still insightful moments bubbling up. First up, some tech humor from the top. And Elon Musk posted just a crying, laughing emoji. Ache. And it was replying to a video from Dirty Tesla. What's the context?
It's pretty funny, actually. The video apparently showed a Tesla driving itself autonomously, but with a human supervisor still sitting right there.
Ah, the irony.
Exactly. And this is happening just as Tesla's rolling out its self-driving taxis in Austin, which started yesterday. But there's still so much skepticism about whether the tech is truly ready for fully unsupervised driving. A RAND Corporation study in 2023 laid out all the hurdles still facing Level 5 autonomy. And remember the big recall in 2024, 2 million Teslas, autopilot issues. So Elon's bae. It's not just a laugh. It kind of perfectly captures that gap between the ambition and the current reality of autonomous driving. It acknowledges the challenges, maybe.
From roads to rockets, at SpaceX tweeted. Ax-4 is go for launch. Always generates a lot of excitement, these launches.
Oh, absolutely. The public fascination is real. This Ax-4 mission, it's part of SpaceX's whole push to make space travel more routine, more accessible, and the hardware is just incredible. The Dragon spacecraft has 16 Draco thrusters for maneuvering in space.
It's also interesting just to see the different design philosophies, like SpaceX's astronaut suits, super sleek, designed for short exposures inside the capsule mostly. Contrast that with NASA's bulky suits for spacewalks. Different needs, different engineering solutions. It shows how the field is evolving.
Okay, this next one requires some translation. At Cattard2 posted, in sad news, Big Balls resigned from DOGE. Who is Big Balls and what is DOGE in this context?
Right. Definitely a head scratcher out of context. Big Balls refers to Edward Korstein. He's this 19-year-old tech prodigy. And DOGE is the Department of Government Efficiency. He apparently resigned yesterday, June 24th, citing inefficiencies within the department itself. Kind of ironic.
A bit, yeah. His resignation came after Elon Musk also stepped away from a role advising DOGE, so it highlights maybe some ongoing struggles with that whole government efficiency push. An NPR piece actually interviewed a former employee who suggested that, despite the hype, DOGE's actual fraud detection capabilities were pretty limited. And then there's another layer. Reuters reported back in March that Korstein had passed links through a company he founded called Diamond CDN to a cybercrime ring.
Seriously. At 19.
Yeah. Which raises some pretty big questions about, the vetting process for these high-profile, maybe unconventional government appointments. Especially with young tech talent.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a story. All right, last one for today. Some social media persona confusion. At Brian Johnson, the biohacker guy, commented on a post saying, man, that Y makes all the difference. What's he referring to?
He's drawing a very clear line between himself, Brian with a Y, and Brian Johnson with an I.
Ah, the Liver King guy.
That's the one. Brian Liver King Johnson was apparently arrested for making terroristic threats, allegedly against Joe Rogan.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now.
Yeah, so Brian Johnson, biohacker, is basically saying, hey, that's the other Johnson. It's kind of darkly funny, but it really underscores how wild social media influence can get. And, the very real potential for online behavior, especially from public figures, to spill over into serious legal trouble. It's a stark reminder that online actions can have very offline consequences.
Definitely.
So yeah, this whole last segment, it just shows the sheer variety, right? From tech humor about self-driving cars to serious questions about government prodigies and the messy reality of online fame. It's the digital age in a nutshell.
What a ride today. We've really covered a lot of ground, from that intense AI innovation and the legal battles surrounding it, through these big shifts in global capital and talent, the policy debates shaping our cities, right down to geopolitics, finance modernization with crypto, and yeah, ending with some of those truly unique, sometimes weird moments that bubble up online. Hopefully this deep dive gave you a better sense of the nuances behind today's buzz, beyond just the headlines.
Absolutely. And maybe it leaves you with this question to chew on in this age where information just flies at us constantly, often without real context. How do you figure out what actually matters versus what's just noise? And what impact do all these trending stories, these narratives, really have on how we all understand the world?